Hello, everybody. It's just me this time. I'm sorry, it's my fault. We're just gonna load the game properly this time because I wanted to show you what that looks like. Loading into the southwestern Cape here. And the state you arrive in after you do this is the closest thing the game has to sitting down. It's not ideal because you can't really track the camera to the side and get the scene around you, but it's pretty good. I like seeing Wander asleep there. It's always good to be reminded that your character has physical needs for rest. Just continues to be my favorite thing. Anyway, the reason it's just me is it really is all my fault. I was chewing gum, you see. I got more than halfway through the episode and I didn't say anything out loud, but I realized I like pulled it out of my mouth. This has been in my mouth this whole time. I've been chewing on it and making noise. It really does sound awful. I'll put the link to the original episode in the description if you think you can deal with it. But I figured for most of you it'd be better if I just didn't treat you to it. There's my enemy, by the way. Isaac is too sick to record. He was sick when we recorded the original commentary, and he's even sicker now, so this is my punishment all alone. It's the thing I'm the very worst at. I feel like I'm pretty good in a conversation. I feel like I'm pretty good writing stuff down, but here, all by myself on top of the tower, I have nobody with me to confirm whether the things I'm saying are funny, interesting, sensible, whether they're even really still in the English language. And so it's my job now to try to make it entertaining as I spend the next little while looking for this stupid lizard. You know what? I'm gonna take the liberty. There. Would you believe me if I told you I never even found the damn lizard? I mean, I found him, obviously, but I never killed him. I never caught him. I gave up after a while. It was hard watching myself give up. Here I am trying to do the hard thing. I'm trying to do the solo commentary, and I don't have time to write it. I don't have time to put in a ton of edits, so here's me, you know, doing the thing I fear, and this idiot past version of myself can't even find the stupid lizard. Well, I'm gonna be better than him. I'm going to learn how to do a new thing, and this video, by the time this is over, I'm gonna be great at this. You'll see. For now, I have to figure out what to talk about. We are going into the desert, and the desert is where I am interested in some of the scenery. Well, there's some footage of it, because I showed it to Isaac, so we'll get there when I get there. I guess this is a good opportunity for me to wax nostalgic a little. It took me a weirdly long time to beat Ico for the first time. I owned that game for quite a long time before Shadow of the Colossus came out, and I was interested in it, but I could only really find myself playing it when I was in a very particular headspace. I guess it's not the catchiest game out there, but by the time I did finish it, I had already kind of grown a kind of old and familiar attachment to it, you know what I mean? So when this game finally came out, like, after I beat Ico, it was connecting itself indirectly to a story I cared about, that I encountered at a rather young age. And so when these rings showed up, they are the rings from the arenas on either side of Ico's castle. They focused that light beam onto the devices that open the exit. My young little myth brain lit up, you know? They're so deliciously vague. What are they doing here? Are they what's left of the castle in Ico, or were they here before the castle in Ico was built? Or are they just rings very similar to those rings? Are there like more? Is there more than one castle where these rings are used? You know, so many questions. It really kept me engaged with the world, and I think world building gets kind of a bad rap in the world of video game stories, and for good reason, right? Like, this game and games like it have proven that games are just very good for whatever reason at delivering world building in an impressive way, with a strong sense of scale, right? Riding the horse through the ring and the implication that carry. It's a very special feeling. But I feel like there's some truth in the criticism that games have kind of gotten overly familiar with that method of telling stories, environmental storytelling, right? But this is not interesting because it is effective world building. This is interesting because it is a riddle. It introduces an entire matrix of ways to interpret this game. Vis-a-vis the other game in the series, it's kind of an invitation to forge your own headcanon about the way they fit together, which comes after the other, and how do their events lead into one another. And you know, my high school brain got right to work on that. It's a tendency that I've kept in the literature that I like. I'm drawn to stories that kind of ask me to mentally complete them. In my interpretation of this game, it was kind of an infinite destiny, a looping destiny. The games led into one another, and I enjoyed that because it created a whole third dimension of like interlocking relationships between the characters. They would betray one another, make promises to one another, and in the fullness of time fulfill their promises to one another. At the time, of course, I thought that I was, with a kind of self-confirming way of thinking, I thought that I was, you know, uncovering the truth of what was really meant. And, oh, I'm going to try to pat my horse, and yep, I whacked the horse with a sword. But yeah, I thought I was discovering what the game was really trying to say. And I was convinced that The Last Guardian would come out in short order and prove me right. I don't want to make fun of my younger self too much there, though, because it was very fun activity, and I wanted to write a kind of miniature. I wanted to write my miniature epic. Of course, I never got around to it, but it would have been pretty good. I think if I have to thank Ico and Shadow of the Colossus for anything, it's for showing me the value of a very vague and open story. I think I've probably said it ad nauseum on this channel, like praise for things like that, but it interests me, and certainly I was interested in the way this room bore a passing resemblance to a lot of the architecture in Ico. I really like how this game waits until, what is this, like the 5th or 6th Colossus to like show you that it can do these large indoor spaces like without loading screens. I feel like a lesser developer would have proved that capability sooner. Why does this thing open up when you show up? Like, it doesn't make any sense, you guys. This game is busted. I don't know how the hell I'm going to talk over this battle with Beardo. What do you say about a Colossus fight when it's not happening to you? It's all about the emotion of the moment, man. You can't recreate that, but I was definitely chewing gum all throughout this fight, so it's wasted. I wish I could just skip this Colossus fight like I skipped the Silver Lizard, but that would not be forgivable. Yeah, this guy he walks towards you and bursts through these walls, and you have to be pretty fast apparently to not get caught, because I only made one mistake climbing this wall, but oops, not fast enough. I'm right in the line of fire. This felt like an extremely close call. I was definitely panicking here while Isaac talked about whatever the hell he was talking about. The animations sell this really well. Boom, I love it. In an earlier episode of this show, I've talked about Wander's weird-looking run cycle, and it is weird-looking, isn't it? But I want to just say out loud that I don't mean that as a slight, necessarily. These games were directed by an animator, after all, and I think that the animations are a strong, almost load-bearing element. But I can't explain Wander's run cycle. It looks good. It definitely looks good, especially while you're fighting a Colossus, because it has a kind of panicked, flailing about quality to it. And maybe the ideal thing would have simply been for there to have been 2 run animations. I don't want to solve every problem if this even could be called a problem, by just adding more stuff to the game, but a different run animation when you're not fighting a Colossus might have sold this one a little bit better, so it doesn't just feel like Wander's a clumsy weirdo who doesn't know how to run. Anyway, this is why he's called Beardo. The Colossi in this game, it has to be said, are not smart. It's very impressive how the contrivance works. You don't think about the fact that they should just be reaching for you. Like, if you had something on your face climbing up you, you wouldn't just stand there with your arms at your side and shake about, would you? No, you'd like slap yourself silly. You'd bonk your noggin until it got off. And yet you don't really think about that. You know, this is not a complaint. If the game did that, the game wouldn't work. And it's impressive that the scene works so well despite that obvious logical inconsistency. And in a way, that's what these fights run on, is that ability of the presentation to just sell it. It's like all things, it's a lot like professional wrestling. Like, the bird is the only Colossus I've fallen off by accident. But this stamina system is like tuned really well to make you feel like you're constantly in danger of having that happen. And it is a real danger, and that's part of what makes it dramatic. But usually, as long as you're on top of it, you have enough stamina to do what you need to do. You're not really going to fall off. And that's good, because when you do, it's a drag to get back on the guy. It feels a little stupid how the same thing works twice, you know? You get on the bird the same way twice, and if I were to fall off this guy, you would just crawl up his beard a second time. It's kind of a seam, you know? It's the game behaving in a way it maybe wished not to. So the important thing is for you to feel like you can actually fall off while not actually making it too likely for you to fall off. And so the game accomplishes this, I think, by making you feel less than empowered, you know? Convention says that you shouldn't take control away from the player too much. And this game revels in taking control away from you. You have to just hold the hold on button so much of the time while on a Colossus, waiting for you to give him waiting for him to give you a chance to maneuver again. It's all presentational, you know. It's not the kind of game that, well, I take that back. It is the kind of game that gives you the chance to demonstrate some MLG skills, because speedruns of this game are tremendous. But that's not the way it plays for most. Maybe that's just even more impressive that it also has that layer for those who want to seek it out. I think the game has a... Does it have... It does have a boss rush mode, I think. That you can just warp to the Colossi via the statues in the temple, I think, and people will speedrun that rush, I think, and that's cool. I respect how what's obviously an artsy story game can support that kind of gameplay, but I would never personally seek it out. Look at this guy's secondary weak point. Doesn't it look like a regrettable tattoo he got at a younger age? I guess that is the lesson here. You gotta be careful what tattoos you get. If you get one that looks like a magical weak point, you might pay for that. Thank goodness Beardo is almost dead, so I can struggle to find yet another thing to talk about. Oh dearie me, I'm getting tired. And it looks like I have to regain some stamina before I can finally put Beardo to rest. You see what I mean here? It's violent. It feels violent. A lot of games are about violence, but not a lot of them really feel violent. It's been on my mind lately. This game feels violent, and that's always good. Not because not because genuine violence is fun, just if you're gonna have violence in all your games, you might as well emphasize it. Don't downplay it. Prepare to die, Beardo. Rest in peace, Beardo. Beardo takes a really nasty tumble. And it was around here that Isaac and I decided, oh yeah, we haven't even barely gotten 15 minutes into this episode, so maybe we don't fight the next Colossus, it's that eel thing. But we'll horse around a little more to fill the time. We'll have ourselves a lovely chat. But I continued to chew gum through most of the lovely chat, so I'm still here with the task of talking to myself. I really could use a nap. Like the nap Wonder's getting, talking to the soul of his girlfriend. I could take a nap and talk to the soul of my girlfriend, I guess. I mean, it sounds better than this. I think I'm gonna skip this. Yeah, why is one of them so short? I'm gonna skip this. I'm not about all that. I'm about all this horsing around instead. So, talking about the way this game captured my young mind, right? I think that one can look at these games in the light of a fairy tale, which is kind of like, oh, geez, stop hitting your horse. This poor horse. I put her through so much abuse. Look, I can't even get her gender right. And look at this. How does this even happen? Why does the horse listen to me? What value does this horse see in my company? Anyway, I'm fading fast, but I'm still gonna attempt to finish saying something about this game and fairy tales. There's this book called The Uses of Enchantment by who? By Bruno Bettelheim. I just looked over to determine that. And he talks about how fairy tales are stories where people of a young age can kind of recognize themselves. They can't do that in a lot of contemporary media written for children, which is all, you know, I guess goofy slapstick bullshit. He wrote that book in the 60s or something, so it was probably not quite the same then. Look at that amazing architecture. Anyway, his point is that fairy tales are not only kind of like myths in that they are universally applicable tales, but they speak particularly to the concerns of young people in a kind of psychic fashion. And I think it's for a similar reason that and here I am, by the way, looking at the corpse of the second Colossus. It does not look like the second Colossus's corpse from up here. We'll get a closer look at that. But yeah, I think that it is for these reasons, that the same reasons, that these two games, the stories about these young boys kind of moving heaven and earth to do a small thing that they thought was right for, in Wonder's case, highly personal reasons, and in Aiko's case, just kind of universal moral reasons. I think these are stories that appeal to a kiddywink. And I think that the effect that these kinds of stories have on someone at a young age are, I think, writers like Joseph Campbell, who I love talking about, and Bruno Bettelheim like to pretend that they can pick it apart with psychological specificity. I think that is slightly shaky, but I do think that they are right in recognizing the kind of the profundity of the effects these stories have on young readers. And here is the second Colossus' corpse. It just looks like a mound of earth at first, but you start to recognize the legs and the head. This poor guy was a cutie. He missed. Isaac pointed out here that this looks like the kind of hill that ancient peoples would have sort of bragged were once giant beasts, and I think that is a fun way to look at it, and I hope that was thought about when those things were designed. Where was I? Right, I can talk about the effect this game had on my taste in games and my taste in literature, and the permanent associations I have with its tone and its color palette and things like that. But who knows, it may have even indoctrinated me in some even deeper fashion than that, in some hard-to-recognize way. I mean, the game is pretty light on ideology. I guess until the end. I wonder if the end is something that has stuck with me about this game. But at any rate, I think looking at it now with fresh eyes, it's interesting to see how its design promotes this kind of mythological thinking. And I think a big part of it is this landscape. It's not the first thing you think about, the landscape. The first thing you think about is the Colossi, and the Colossi are definitely an important part of the formula, but this dang landscape. If the Colossi are these contrived encounters, right, the landscape sure isn't. It's really just what it is. It's a place you have to find your way through, and your reaction to that is going to be very much your own. The main thing you're going to encounter out here, therefore, is yourself, right? And here is me, coming to it now. I'm mostly encountering my younger self, who spent so much time here. I think that says something about the power of this place. But yeah, I'm going to leave you with that. I am going to... I stopped chewing my gum right about here, so I'm going to give you back to the bit where I walked Isaac through some of the silly and useless controls. It'll hopefully be more entertaining than anything I have said so far. Thank you for listening to this struggle that I have had. Like colors in that forest.
There are no seasons in this world.
Yeah.
We're all in stasis, trapped inside an inverted castle.
Yeah, an inverted castle.
Yeah.
You're gonna do like an academic... Ooh, yeah, we did the thing!
Oh, Jesus. Somebody wheel out the doctors with the curtain to the shotgun.
It's possible, I think, to take a jump so far that the horse and you do not survive. And that's a game over. I could be mistaken about that, though. Alright, so... Looking forward to your academic paper on how the Forbidden Land is an inverted castle. In the meantime, here's what R2 does. It zooms the view, which is nice, because there's a lot of stuff you want to look at.
Yeah.
Here's what L1 does. It takes you into Wander's view, where he rapidly looks from side to side. That's all this button does.
You're taking heed of your surroundings. In case you don't want to manually take heed of your surroundings.
You can control the camera, but you can only barely fight against him when he's doing this.
I wonder about the subjective experience of the player character at that moment. It's like, woggle your head more. No, I'm woggling my head exactly the amount that I wish to woggle my head.
Zooming the view is a good way to view just how dilapidated Wander has become.
Yeah, he's looking a little bit like he's caught vitiligo there.
I'm gonna hunt the lizard, and that'll be it. This one appears to have the same architecture as that one we were just at, so they're not all unique. There you are.
Ooh,
okay,
I didn't even see.
I don't know why I expect it to be inverted.
Hey.
I don't know if that killed him, though. Sometimes you have to hit them with the sword after this part. Yeah, he got away. Son of a bitch.
There he is.
Yeah, I saw him.
There he is. A very resilient skink.
The thing with this is... It's hard, Isaac. It's so hard.
And nobody understands. It's okay. What is this saying about labor, right? It's like...
It's a ritual.
This is only necessary if you want to climb the temple, and climbing the temple doesn't actually avail you anything. Just sword him.
I'm trying. God.
God, he's resilient. Oh, there he is.
No! It's, like, very hard. There's so many of these.
Yeah, I really like it, though. This is the only, like, voluntary activity in this whole space, because the rest of it is being, like, taught to you by God.
Yeah.
And is actively hurting you and making you, like, into a revenant. And the thing that you are doing for your own sake is both, like, obscure and ultimately pointless.
It's true.
It just makes it easier for you to follow instructions.
True.
It's, this is... Hunting Colossus is his Wander's job, but hunting tiny lizards is his passion.
This does, however, let you attempt to escape the Forbidden Land.
If you
climb the...
Attempt only.
Yeah, attempt. It is obvious. It is obvious that in the same way as a bridge, like, the bridge has Yorda totems at the end in Ico. Like, there will be something textual in this game that prevents us from violating Wander's wishes.
Yeah. And that'll be a horse, presumably.
A giant horse,
for symmetry, yes.
A horse, like, bull rushes you when you attempt to leave.
Or it could be a giant horse statue in the way that you run into giant pencil statues in Earthbound until you buy a pencil eraser.
It's unbelievable how fucking hard this is.
Well, I mean, maybe that game is trying to tell you something, dude. You should give up on your passions and instead embark on a normal, societally supported career of Colossus hunting.
I think there's a thing. Yes, if you hit the arrow near it, it falls to the ground. So now I have a chance to sort it. Hiya! Die! Die, you fiend.
You got it. You did it.
I did it.
Eat it. Can
Yum.
you eat it?
I ate it.
All right.
Okay,
Your orb is glowing slightly.
And that's it for the episode. Nice view of the temple.
Yeah, and then
Hello, horse. Last time I played, he did this like while I was like that thing he just did.
Yeah.
While there was a sheer cliff behind me, and I was just like, if that happened to me in real life, there was like a 50-50 chance that I would have jumped off the cliff in terror. Oops. Save.
it is not possible in this game for Wander to be murdered by his own horse.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
This place is called the Round Stone Hill.
That's lovely.
That's pretty nice.
Descriptive.
I look forward to waking up here.
Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to go back and play Hex Cells in the Dark some more.
Yeah.